This is BBC News. I'm Victoria Derbyshire. Here are the latest headlines. The Vaccines Minister says the public should have confidence in the UK's COVID vaccine programme, despite early evidence suggesting the Oxford jab doesn't do much to prevent mild or moderate disease when it comes to the South African variant of the virus.
It's still something we've quite rightly got to keep a very close eye on, hence that surge testing to track down those cases of it and make sure that those who have this variant self-isolate and thereby don't transmit it further.
Meanwhile, the vaccine rollout continues. About 1 million people were given a first dose over the weekend, taking the overall total to more than 12 million. Heavy snow hits large parts of the country and more is on the way.
Here in Clacton in Essex on the coast, they are bearing the brunt of it. An amber weather warning is in place, people being warned to expect disruption to travel and possible power cuts.
Israel's Prime Minister pleads not guilty to corruption charges. He's accused of offering favours to media companies. Another victory for the veteran quarterback Tom Brady. The 43-year-old wins his 7th Super Bowl in the NFL's season finale. If you're getting in touch today, you're very welcome. Particularly about the vaccine rollout, let me know. You can message me on Twitter and Instagram at Vic Derbyshire, or you can email victoria@bbc.co.uk. Good morning. The Vaccines Minister says the public can have confidence in the UK's COVID vaccine after South Africa put its plans to use the Oxford-AstraZeneca jab on hold. Early trials suggest that against the South African coronavirus variant, the Oxford vaccine offers minimal protection from mild and moderate disease. So far, 147 cases of the variant have been found in this country, but the dominant strain in the UK is the Kent one, against which the vaccines appear to work well. Vaccines Minister Nadhim Zahawi said scientists were working on updated vaccines to fight new variants and added that we should take confidence from the current rollout and the protection it will provide all of us. Aruna Iyengar reports.
The race to arm the UK against coronavirus is stepping up another gear, with 18 new vaccination centres opening today across England. Ellen Road's seen some pretty special shots on goal over the years. Now the Leeds United Stadium is also helping give a shot in the arm, boosting the effort to give the top 4 priority groups part 1 of their vaccination by this time next week. And we're on target to offer 15 million first doses, maybe more.
The numbers do seem to be very impressive and that's great news. But I think the really key issue is that it's not just a question of numbers, it's getting the vaccine doses into the right people. And that is being achieved, I think. We're seeing very high percentages of people in their 80s now covered and now increasing numbers of people in their 70s. And the age, particularly older age groups, that's the really powerful predictor of risk.
In the latest 24-hour period, just under 550,000 people had a first dose of one of the 3 approved vaccines. That takes the overall number who've had their first jab to just over 12 million. There are questions over how much protection these vaccines will give against new variants of the virus emerging here and in other countries. Last night, South Africa announced it was suspending its full rollout of the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine after a small study suggested the jab offers minimal protection against mild disease from the specific South Africa variant. The country was due to start with 1 million doses of the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine in the next few days, but the new data has created uncertainty.
It's a temporary issue that we have to hold on to AstraZeneca. It is temporary until we figure out these issues. What are the next steps supposed to be? When we know those steps, then of course we bring it back.
Here, the Vaccines Minister has defended the jab, insisting it was vitally important in protecting the healthcare system. Modified vaccines and booster jabs are likely to be needed to beat mutations that could help the virus keep spreading for a long time yet. Aruna Iyengar, BBC News.
Let's talk to our chief political correspondent, Adam Fleming, who's at Westminster. Is the government worried about this new small study regarding the Oxford vaccine?
They don't seem overly worried yet, and they point to the fact that this study in South Africa was quite small, and it looked at young people, and it looked at whether they developed mild or moderate forms of the disease. And the government's current vaccination strategy here in the UK is to protect older and vulnerable people and stop them going into hospital or dying. And the study doesn't tell us anything about that. And Ed Argar, the health minister, has been on the airwaves this morning, quoting Professor Sarah Gilbert from Oxford, the person who basically invented the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine.
There isn't anything that suggests, or that she's seen, that this isn't effective in preventing severe illness, in preventing hospitalisation, in preventing deaths. And although this study is an important one, and quite rightly, we will look at it carefully. Throughout the past year, when I've been coming on your programme throughout this pandemic, I've always been cautious in saying the science will evolve, we will look at all studies, but this is only one study, one small study.
And today, ministers have been pointing to another study that was released on Friday, which looked at the effectiveness of the AstraZeneca vaccine against the UK variant, which started off in Kent and which showed that it still worked pretty well. Ministers pointing out that that is the dominant strain in the UK at the moment, and they've only identified 147 cases of the South African variant. In other words, that is much less concerning at the moment.
Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you. Let's talk to Professor Robin Shattuck now. He's Head of Immunity at Imperial College London. Good morning to you. People who've had the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine might be worried about the kind of protection it gives. Should they be?
No, at this stage I don't think there's any need for people to be concerned who've had the vaccine, and I would really encourage those people who are being called forward to get the vaccine as well. It's really important to recognise this is a very small study, and its implications for the UK are not fully worked out right now.
Yes, it's around 2,000 people, average age of 31 years old. So we have to keep it in perspective. The government says there are over 100 cases of the South Africa strain in this country. Those are the official figures. What do you think the reality is?
Well, it may well be larger than that, and that's why it's important for us really to be very aggressive in terms of seeing how that strain is spreading, and for people to continue to really adhere to all the precautions to try and keep infections as low as possible, so that we can get on top of this virus as quickly as we can.
Right. If this study, when it's if it becomes formally published, if it is the reality, what does that mean for people who've had the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, it not being effective against mild and moderate doses of the disease when it comes to the South African variant?
Well, first of all, we haven't seen the data. It's not published yet. We hope that it'll be revealed soon. It's not clear in that study whether people had only a single vaccination or whether they had 2 doses. We definitely know that they won't have had that delayed second dose, and that delay makes the vaccine much more potent. And so it needs more studies to see whether with that optimized regime, whether it protects against serious disease. And there's every likelihood that that will be the case. And the other issue is, get the AstraZeneca vaccine now, and you can get a boost, likely in the winter if it's needed. You won't be starting from no immunity at all. So if you get it now, it's going to protect you against the dominant virus in the UK. And if you need a booster to update your immunity later in the year, that will be in place.
How important is it to get on top of this South Africa strain, and what's the best way to do it?
Well, it's important to get on top of all viruses circulating in the UK, because the more virus that's being transmitted, the more likely that other mutations may also occur. So we need to drive things down as low as possible to have the maximum impact of the vaccines, but also to protect the vaccines in order to make sure they continue to be as effective as they possibly can be.
Okay. Are you worried about seeming reluctance amongst black people and other ethnic minorities to get the vaccination?
Oh, yes, very much. I mean, the sad irony is many of those communities are frontline workers working in transport, in hospitals, in all sorts of other services. They're most at risk of getting COVID. And if they miss out on the vaccine, that's going to be a sort of a double impact on those communities. So we do really want to encourage those groups to come forward, and we really want to support and encourage peer leaders in those communities to stand up and say that this is a safe vaccine, it's worthwhile having, it's going to save lives.
Thank you very much for talking to us this morning. Thank you.
I've kept completely silent throughout that news report. There was a comment in yesterday's upload stating that I should basically just shut up and not say a thing over the top of the news reports. How do you find it? Do you think I should just shut up, say nothing and just record a news report, or rabble over the top like I've been doing throughout the lockdown, giving me views on what I think? Let me know in comments what you think.